This is Gemara in Kiddushin, Daf Tes Zayin, as we travel through Elul. All the learning in this incredible and most holy month of Elul has been generously sponsored as a Schos Aliyas Neshama, Faster Ezel Basra Meir B'siyata Dishmaya. The learning of the entire Chabura, day in and day out, daf by daf, should bring, as to Ezel Basra Meir, an incredible Aliyas Neshama, higher and higher in the Bezdin Shalmaila, closer to the Kisei HaKavod. And we pick it up from Tezvavim Abeis, 7 lines from the bottom. First word on the line is Azal Umazvin Navshei. Amar Rav Chia Barabba Amar Rav Yechlan. The truth is, I pulled up a little bit short yesterday. I apologize. Shikl ran out of gas in the tank. But here, this really wraps up the previous discussion that says Rav Chia Barabba, the name of Rav Yechlan, Zu different Rav Yossi Haglid and Rav Akiva. The aforementioned the machlokes that when we have redemption via a relative or through a non-relative, whether the Eved goes free or whether the Eved continues to work for he who redeemed them, says Rav Chia bar Abba, the name Rav Yechlan, that is a machlokes Rav Yossi and Rav Akiva. However, aval chachamim ha'imrim, there's a third opinion. Say the chachamim akol is shecher, anyone who redeems this Eved, the Eved goes free. Says the Gemara, who are these Chachamim? Man Chachamim. Rebbe that we had in the top of this Amid. Shitas Rebbe the Darshan Zim lo yigal be'ela, demabik le lahayl be'ela, le drasha achrina. Umikra nejish bein levanav, ubein la'acharav. And the pasuk is going to be Darshan both ways. So says the Gemara, we have this third opinion. Shitas Revi, that whomever redeems the Eved will always go free. Says the Gemara, 1 second. V'Rebbe, and according to Rebbe, 2 lines to the bottom, on Tezvavim Abeis, Hai v'yatsa b'shnas hayavel my avidle. So what does Rebbe do with the pasuk that Rabbi Akiva and Rav Segli debated? Says the Gemara, mi ba'ile l'chetanya. He needs it for the following brisa. Says the brisa of Yasa b'shnas hayovel, that if he's not redeemed, he goes free at Yovel. And we turn over to today's daf of Tezayin Amid Aleph, and explains the Gemara that what's this pasuk referring to? Ba'akom sheyeshonoi tachas yodecha. A guy that is under our jurisdiction. So it's a little bit complicated that what we're discussing over here is there are times in history that Bezdin, the Klal Yisrael, controlled the town. And in such a scenario, even the Goyim were under our control. So in a scenario that Ba'akum Sheshadachas Yadecha, and that guy owns a Yid, what can we do to him? And the chiddush over here is going to be that even though we have control of the Avadim, of the Goyim, so you would think if we have control of the Goyim, so if a Yisrael is owned by the Goy, let's just get this straight. A Yisrael is owned by Leroy, but Bezdin, the Jewish Bezdin, controls Leroy. So you would think that this Yisrael should be able to walk free whenever he wants, because we're in control of the Goyim. That's the Chiddush, that he cannot do that. And now we begin a new Gemara, 5 lines down. Tezayin Amid Aleph Ubishtar. Says the Mishnah that you could purchase an Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave, via Ashtar. Ask the Gemara the classical question, and really all these Gemaras are patterned one after another. Minola, and where do we know you could acquire an Eved Bishtar? Amar Ula, Amar Kra, Emacheres Ikach Loi. Says the pasuk, if someone else purchases him, Hekisha Akasav Lacheres, this pasuk of Amar Avriya equates the purchase of an Eved to this Amar Avriya via calling it an Acheres. Ma'acheres Mikani Bishtar, Amar Avriya Mikani Bishtar. And that's how we learn out that both of them are able to be kaina. There is a kinin Bishtar. Asks the Gemara, there's a debate that when an Amma Ivriya, a Jewish maid servant, this is a girl, that when she is acquired, who writes the shtar? So if the Adain writes the shtar, then there's this hekish, this is comparison to the case of marriage. Elaman Damer Av Kaisvai, that the father of this girl writes the shtar to give over this girl to servitude, then is no hekish, is not comparable to a case of marriage. So if that is true, then Michael Meimar. And now the Gemara explains the Itamar, like we learned in a Braisa. Shtar Amar Evriya Mi Kaisvai. Who writes this document of the Amar Evriya? Continues the Gemara to Zainam and Aleph. 10 lines down, first word line is Rav Huna. We have a machlekes, Rav Huna Amar Adain Kasvai. Rav Chisda Amar Av Kaisvai. So Anichel Rav Huna, the Rav Chisda Michael Meimar. Explains the Gemara. Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Kra Loi Tzeitze Ketzeitze Avadim. That the Eved should not go free like the way of Avadim. Aval, she doesn't. Amar Evriya does not go free like a Eved. And Rashi over here, the last wide line on top of the Amar clues us in. What does that mean? B'shein b'ayin b'rashi avarim, like an Eved Kanaini. If we own a Kanani, we own a non-Jew, and that Eved gets damaged, knocks out a tooth or an eye, the Eved goes free, as Rashi continues in the first narrow line. Shem Sima Seina v'Cheneino Shel Sima Seina, the Eved goes free. V'Cheneino Shel Eved Ivri Eino Yoytze B'Kach. But a Jewish slave does not go free if he loses an eye or a tooth. Ella, rather, how does he go free? Nice and like to me, he has to pay his value and then he's going to leave. So says the Pasuk, quotes the Gemara, Aval. He doesn't go out like an Eved Kanani, but he's niknesi kikinya avadim, but he is, yes, kaina, the same way that an Eved is acquired. And how is that? That is shtar, as we'll see in Daf Chav Beis, which is originally learned from the hekesh between karkais and avodim. Umayni ushtar. Asks the Gemara, very nice. So we have a pasuk that tells me that this Jewish slave does not go out the same way as the Goyish slave, and we darshan, he doesn't go out the same way, but he's acquired the same way. Says the Gemara, so how do you know? Ve'ema avol niknesu kikinin avodim. Umayni chazaka. Very good that you have a drasha that he doesn't leave like an Eved Kanani, but he's acquired like an Eved Kanani, fine. But how do you know that means shtar? Maybe it means chazaka. So explains the Gemara, Amar Kra, says the Torah, and you should bequeath them to your children after you, Oisam b'chazaka, v'loyacher b'chazaka. That's how we know that only they are given over via chazaka. Ask the Gemara the same kasha. How do you know? Ve'ima oisa b'shtar v'loyacher b'shtar. Says the Gemara, no. Ask the Gemara the classical kasha. Omar Rayis. Basically, we have two psukim, and we're saying one's marba and one is not. We have this motive that we want to say shtar is that which is being included. But ask the Gemara, how do you know that? So explains the Gemara, Mistav Roshar. How do we know why? We're including shtar misvara. That's the svara shkein moitzia, because we find B'Bas Yisrael a regular Jewish girl is married b'shtar. Says the Gemara, what's your raya? Adrabah chazak avle l'Rabuye. No, maybe we should include that you could acquire an Eved Ivri via chazaka. Why? Shkein kind of an ger, because chazaka is strong. You can make a kinyan the properties of a ger. Explains the Gemara, be'ishos miya layashchan. We don't find such a kinyan be'ishos, and that's the reason why we equate it to shtar. Shtar works be'ishos as well. Teretz number 1. This is what the Pasuk of Acheres comes to teach you. For Rav Huna, what does he do with the Pasuk? Rav Chisda, what does he hold him? The king of Kara. Shema min artarti, and that's going to be the two different ways that we're going to darshan, teaching us that there is the concept of a kinyan b'shtar by an Eved. And we continue with the two dots, smack in the middle of the Amid V'Koines, that's like V'Shanim. Tersev, what's the source? Sheishanim Yavad V'Shvias V'Komer. B'yovel, how do we know? Begrayin kasef, that David acquires himself via the depreciation of his value. Amar Chizkiya Damar Kra, you know what the pasuk says? V'hifta. For here we learn out the Josh that we've seen already. Melamed shemigrapid yaina v'yatza, that the Eved decreases, subtracts from his original value, pays the remainder, and then he is able to leave. And that is going to be the source, says the Gemara. That's going to be the source for the fact that one leaves with Gira'in Kesef. Tana, we learned in a Mishnah, V'koine Zatza V'kesef, V'shav Kesef Ubishtar. Ask the Gemara, Bish, Tama Kesef, T'chsev V'kesef, M'gnasa, Yishav Kesef Nami, Yoshev Gula, Sai, Amar Rachman, L'Rav, Yishav Kesef, Kesef, El Hayshtar Yechidami. What is the case of Shtar that David acquires himself via the Shtar? Explains the Gemara, if you're going to tell me that David writes a Shtar, an IOU of his value, and that's how he acquires himself, says the Gemara, what's the Chiddush? Hainu Kesef. By giving such a Shtar, that's the exact same thing as giving Kesef. Ella, you know, it's referring to Shechrer. Says the Gemara, Shechrer. Shtar Lamali. You don't need a document. The Lamale Babe tray. Let him say in front of two people, Zil, go. Inami Babe Dina Zil. So again, how do we see? Asks the Gemara that the Eved goes free vishtar. Amar Rava Zleisay Meres Eved Ifri Gufay Kanui. Says the Gemara, you know you need a shtar because the actual body of the Eved is acquired and it will not be enough to say for him to leave. Rav Shemachal Geranai Ein Geranai Machal, and that's the reason why a shtar has to be written, and that's the source that an Eved Ivri is freed. Is freed with a shtar. Continues the Gemara about 14 lines from the bottom, the two dots. Yisera love Amma Ivriya. That Amma Ivriya has an additional way that she leaves, that she goes free. This is a Jewish maidservant, a girl, which is how? With his simanim, she goes free when she becomes a Gedalah. Which we'll see right now what that means. Amar Reish Lakish. Amma Ivriya kanes atzav misazav. And Amma Ivriya acquires herself with the death of her father, Meirshus Adon. Mikal v'chaymer. What's the kal v'chaymer? Simanim she'matzim Meirshus. When a girl gets simanim, she doesn't leave her father's rishos yet. Maitzim Meirshus Adon, she leaves her master's rishos. Misa dash when the father dies, she goes on her own. She can marry herself off, etc. Certainly, she shall leave her master's rishos. So suggests the Gemara that there's an additional way that this Amma Ivriya goes free, which is how? With Misas Av. Asks the Gemara, the Avi's Kasha Meisir of Aishia. 7 lines in the wide lines. You said in the Mishnah, the Mishnah said that the additional kin of Amavriya is via Siman of Misa, and if what you're saying is true, Nisninami Misa Zav, why did the Mishnah write as well when the father is nifter? Answers the Gemara, the classical Shiloh, Teretz, Ton of Ishire, the Mishnah left things out. Ask the Gemara, so my Shire, the I Shire. If something is left out in the Mishnah, so there has to be other things left out as well. So what is left out? Says where you know what's left out? Shire Misas Aldoin. That as well with the death of the master, she goes free. Says the Gemara, no. That's not considered leaving something out. Why? Because it applies unanimously, both by man and woman, and we're looking by something that the Yisrael of Amma Ivriya, that a girl, a Jewish maidservant, has over a man. So says Gemara, okay, we have no reason why Misa Sa'av is not listed. So why is it not listed? Answers the Gemara, Tana Davar She'esh Lai Kitzvah Katani, Davar She'ein Lai Kitzvah Lai Katani. Saying with a kitzvah value, $1 point, that we list. Davar She'ein Lai Kitzvah Lai Katani. Ask the Gemara, what do you mean? V'dasimanam de'ein Lai Kitzvah V'Katani. And from here we see that the definition of Ein Lai Kitzvah doesn't mean set value, it means not a set time. Just like death has no time, says the Gemara Simanim. Also doesn't have a set time. Some girls have Simanim earlier, some later, Explains the Gemara in the last line of Tazaitim and Aleph Amar Rav Safra. You're right, Ilam Kitzel Amayla. You're right that there's no upper limit, that she might have simanim later. Aval, however, Yishlav Kitzel Amata, there is a lower limit, which is what? Titania, as we learned in the Brisa, as we turn over to Tezayin Amid Beis, Titania Ben Tisha Shanim, Shevish Teisairais, Shuma. If a 9-year-old procures and says she has Teisairis, or a boy, either one, what's the halacha? The halacha is, do we view those simanim that this child is a gadol at a very early age? Says the Gemara is quoting a Brisa. No. Why not? Because we say it's just a shuma, just a mole. It's an abnormality, and it doesn't necessarily prove that this kid is a gadol. But let's say from 9 years old until 12 years old, if the shuma of these hairs are still there, what's the halacha? Rav Yosef Rav Yehuda Omer simin. Then it gets the status of a simin. Ben you gimel shana v'yom echad, then divrei hakol simin. So says the Gemara, Yishlam Kitzel Lamata. There is a minimum age that the girl has to be before having simanim, and therefore that's not considered davar she'ein loy kitzvah. Masiv Rav Sheishes, Asav Sheishes 5 lines down to Zainim base. Rav Shimon Omer, says Rav Shimon. Again, we're continuing to question the Shita of Reish Lakish that we just quoted, that the Amma Ivriya, that this Jewish girl maidservant goes free with the death of the father. Ask Rav Sheishes that Rav Shimon teaches us Dalid Manikin Lehem. There's 4 categories, 4 cases in which gifts are given when the Eved leaves. Gimel Be'ish, Gimel Be'isha, 3 by man and 3 by woman. And ask the Gemara, you can't say there's 4 by any one of them. Why? Because those are specific both to man and woman. Simanim are only by an Isha, and Ritziyah, the ears pierced only by an Ish. But now suggests the Gemara that according to Reish Lakish, there's a new way for this Amma Avriya to go free, which is what? Which is Misa Sa'av Misa. If you Reish Lakish are correct, this Inami Misav, why is it Misav listed in this Brisa? So you're going to tell me, no, just left some cases out. Varba Katani. Anytime you have a Mishnah, you have a Brisa that lists a specific number, it's very difficult to say Tana Vershire something was left out because a specific number was given. And if you're going to suggest like we said in the bottom of Amar Aleph, the same kasha, but we have the problem, and again, what's Rav Safra? Rav Safra was one that says Davar Shein Lekitzel Malavi Yishol Kitzel Mata. Says Mar, you can't say that. V'ika Misas Adam Den Lem Kitzva, and Misa Adam is Vikatani. Misas Adain explains the Gemara Nami Loikatani Velarba Maini. If you're telling them Misa Adan is not counted, so what are the 4 cases in this Brisa? Shanim v'Yovel shal Ritzia v'Ama Evriya b'Simanim. So that's the Raya, says the Gemara, and it's left out Misas Adan. And that explains the Gemara, Achnam Mistaver, this is logical. The Katani say for the end of the Brisa, it says Yet Alocha Yomer Arba Becha Mehem. Can't list 4 by any one of them. While if you change Simana Bishvim Ritzia be Isha. Vim Isa, and if what we're suggesting is true, be Isha Mia Mishkachas La Arba. So Shema Mina, that this is not listed as one of the cases in which the Eved will go free. Masiv Rav Amram. Now Rav Amram goes to ask Kasha on Reish Lakish. Again, the same Kasha on Reish Lakish that says that Amar V'Yah leaves with Misasav. Masiv Rav Amram, Smakamil V'Amid, first one line is Shema Mina. Ve'elu Ma'anikim V'Hem. In the following case is the din of Hanaka. What's Hanaka? Hanaka is that when the Eved leaves, you have to provide the Eved gifts. Says Rav Amram, quoting a Brisa, the following cases has gifts. Hayoyti V'Shanim V'Yovel Misas Ha'adan V'Ama Evriya B'Simanim. End of Brisa. Asks the Gemara Reish Lakish V'Misa, if you Reish Lakish are right, Nisti Nami Misas Av, why is the death of the father listed as one of the cases that the Eved goes free and gets gifts? Similar to the previous time that we said it lists 4, here it says MVs, these are limiting words. Like Rav Safra. Vasimanim davar Excuse me, not like Rav Safra. Just Davar Sheish L'Kitzvah. Vasiman Din L'Kitzvah Ketani. Chitemi, here it is. Hachanam Keter Rav Safra, that what? Din L'Kitzvah L'Mala, V'ish L'Kitzvah L'Mata. V'miksai Adon. To Yofta, to Reish Lakish, to Yofta. Based off of this, says the Gemara, that we have a kasha on Reish Lakish. The Gemara ends off with this kasha, and therefore Misas Av is not a reason that the Amar Avriya goes free. Asks the Gemara, which is very unique, because usually once the Gemara says Tiyufta means the person's done. Even though here we have a Tiyufta, the Gemara continues asking on Reish Lakish, Kal V'chaimer. What do you do with Reish Lakish? It's Kal V'chaimer Amar. Kal V'chaimer Prichi, no, we have a kashan in Mishan. Nikal and Mifrach, you could ask, Mal Simanim Shanishtaneh Hagov, Simanim are different. They change the body itself. Therefore, you can't bring a raya from that Gzera Shava. Continues the Gemara, Tani Chada. This really, even though, again, Reish Lakish was seemingly Tiyufta, we continue him alive to ask some kashas. Tani Chada, Anek Eved Ivri La'atzmai. The gifts of the Eved Ivri go to himself. Anek Ivri La'atzmai go to herself. That's Bryson number 1. Tani Idach Bryson number 2 says, Anek Ivri Mitzias Alaviyah. In the Rabbi so we see we have a machlokes. Where do the gifts of the Ameh Ivriya go? Do they go to herself or does it go to her father? Suggests the Gemara, my lab, that what's these two brises? Hadinafka b'simanim. Hadinafka le'v'misazav. If they leave b'simanim, then she doesn't get. If she leaves b'misazav, then l'chayr she would get. Suggests the Gemara. Answers Gemara, lo, I did not go with simanim. They go to go with simanim, lo kasha. The difference is going to be is the father around. Explains the Gemara. I understand the gifts go to herself. Lemute achim, which comes to exclude, they don't go to the brothers. Only those go to l'bnei chavachreim. Mikan sheina da meiresh as the chosbita lebno. This chosma the daughter don't goes to the sons. Ela anek eved every la'atzay pshita. How do we know that? Ela leman. Who else would it go to? Amar Rav Yosef Yod Cross Kachazina, which is a derogatory term. Hacha, I see a Yod. Abai Amar Hachi Amar Rav Sheshes Hamani Tutayu. This is the shita of Tutai. The Tani Tutai Amar Lai. That Lai, we darshan Lai and not to Bal Chayvai. That's how the darshan of the pasuk. We're going to stop over here. Pick it up from the Gufa in the next Shir.